All right, guys. So, all right, welcome. I've got Darius here sporting his DPT Logistics polo. Nice shirt, buddy. And Rick over here, who's either trapped in a dungeon or a fancy house. Can't tell. But but no, thank you guys for joining me. So, I think we're gonna have a pretty important conversation today that will especially resonate with anyone who's looking to start a business, be an entrepreneur, and especially anyone who's trying to get into FedEx Linehaul. Whether you're already on the contract, you're a current contractor, or just looking to get into it, I think this is worthwhile listening to. So we're going to talk about your journey becoming contractors, building businesses, kind of talk about the good, the bad, and then maybe share some lessons along the way. And so, let's start with just who you two are, talk about that a little bit, and correct me wherever I'm wrong here, but you two, without any real like operational background knowledge in operating a trucking company, or just trucking in general, and correct me there, but or and also really any knowledge of like the FedEx system, you guys got together a decade ago. Fast forward till today, you now run a successful FedEx operation and several other successful businesses. Um, I think we're going to get together here to talk about what you guys learned, and I guess let's just start at the beginning here. Can you guys talk about, how you two met, whose insane idea it was to get into FedEx, and then also, along the way we could talk about how many times you might wanted to have strangled each other just working together.
This morning.
Yeah.
Um, I'll let you take that. It was your harebrained scheme, Darius.
Speaking of this morning, did I send those bank statements? Did you get them?
No. Yeah.
Damn.
Yes, you
Okay.
did. You did. You sent them directly to that dude, Bill.
Okay. All right. Good. So we were at work, just we were air marshals, and we were on a ground-based team. Coming to work, just riding around these suburbans all day, hanging out in the city, New York City, eating pizza, eating hoagies and sandwiches and stuff, just having a good old time. And but it was like stale. Like we were looking for all this action and stuff like that. And it just wasn't really there. So like one day I was talking to another one of my colleagues and he said he's gonna buy a FedEx business. And I said, what do you mean you can't buy a FedEx business? He said, sure you can. So naturally, what do? What everybody else does? I go home, I Google it, and I see all these FedEx businesses for sale for hundreds of thousands, millions of bucks. And I go back to this guy. I say, how are you going to buy this FedEx business? He said, I'm going to take all the equity out of my house, borrow money from family. I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to go run this business for 30% margins. And I say, hey, I want in too. And we just tabled it for a while. And a couple of days later, I'm bored again on the Operation Rick. We're in the back of the Suburban hanging out, drinking coffee, and I'm like, oh, it's so boring. I'm about FedEx runs. And at this point, I'm an expert at it, because I did my Google research. And Rick did the same thing I did. He said, hey, you can't buy FedEx runs. I said, hold on now, cowboy. Yes, you can. This is how you do it, blah, blah, blah. And he goes home, does his research, same as me, comes back the next day, say, hey, I'm doing this. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it with you. I'll skip a couple steps here. Comes back the next day after that. And he says, hey, I met a manager, a newer manager. I'm going to see a regional manager in Secaucus tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. I need you to come. I live an hour and a half away. I'm like, yo, I'm not going. So I meet Rick at work at 3 o'clock and he say, hey, we're getting 2 runs. I'm like, there's nothing for free. These runs are millions of bucks, hundreds of thousands. How are we getting it for free? And I said, let me go meet the guy. This is BS. Let me go meet the guy. So now I go meet the guy. He says, yeah, I like you guys. I'll give you 2 runs. We were like, cool, holy crap. What do we do about trucks? And we figured out how to get trucks and we were off and running. We bought 3 busted up trucks and weren't busted up. They were good to us. Shit, we got one of them back. And that's how we started in FedEx.
And this probably started in 2013. And when he goes, he skipped a lot of steps. Like he skipped a year,
Ton. The
probably.
juicy
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Like a year of us researching runs, making offers on P&D runs, deciding hell no, we don't want anything to do with this home delivery world, focusing on line haul. And in that process, one of my good friends, Angelo, he knew somebody, and he's like, "Oh, you should talk to this guy." And they were at a terminal, and they're like, "Well, you should talk to this person." And I still have the notebook of those calls that I made, and probably over the course of a week, where one person just led me to another person, and eventually I got to a guy named Rich, who was absolutely phenomenal, great guy in terms of FedEx and in charge of bringing us on. And I think we had a good story. We were unique. We were different from the other contractors at the time, and we brought maybe a fresh face, a different perception of the industry and what we could provide. And at the same time, we didn't know what the hell we were doing to a certain extent. And it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of us just talking on the phone, trying to figure out what to do. Being on operations while trying to create a trucking company. And to say it just worked out would be eliminating like so much negativity,
Mhm.
and that happened, and things that went wrong for us. But geez, looking back on it 10 years later, I think it's easy to say, well, it worked out for sure. And it was a lot of hustle, and it was a lot of working a full-time job
Right.
while hustling on the sidelines.
So both of you were working full time as air marshals and kind of moonlighting with FedEx. Is that right? And
Yeah.
so you mentioned when you met with Rich, like you brought a fresh face. What was like your typical contractor like? How would you describe it before you guys came on?
I think at that time, the contractors had been in for quite a while, since
Mhm.
really the inception of what FedEx Ground was, which is late 90s. They were drivers who turned into contractors who were at a phenomenal place at the right time. And it was just now getting to the point where people knew. I mean, I had no idea. Darius didn't know about that you could own runs as a subcontractor for FedEx. Nobody knew at the time, and these runs were selling for quite a lot of money, and it was still relatively unknown in the space. And so we got in before the rage, before the entrepreneur, before the small business owner, before the people who had a significant amount of cash could get in and start their own small businesses as FedEx Linehaul contractors, with pushing all the benefits of what Linehaul is.
And so Rich saw you guys, liked you guys, and you got two, is it unassigned runs? Is that what it was?
Unassigned nighttime runs in Woodbridge.
And how long, and you mentioned how long was it before you guys got the trucks and started rolling?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah. Why?
And
Here's
it's funny because it really wasn't. It was no fault of our own, but I look at what what Rick is telling these people now, and the help that he gives these folks, and it's so streamlined. I used to get
Yeah.
angry like I'm not helping, nobody helped me, and now it's just like oh, you want a truck, call this person. You want a lease, call this person. You want to you need lytics, you need this, you need cameras, call this person. And within probably let's say a week or two, Rick has these guys up and running where it was like 6 months of us like, where's a truck dealer at? How do you finance this crap?
what kind of trucks do you need? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
do I need an M2 or a Cascadia? Shit, they look
yeah,
the same to me. You know,
yeah.
understanding the weights and the towing capacity of the trucks.
How do you get plates?
Oh my
What
god!
is the GVW? What's a GVW of a truck? Why is that even important? I'll tell you why. Taxes. You pay taxes or you don't pay taxes. But if you put the wrong number down, you're paying
Paying
taxes.
taxes.
So,
Yep.
um,
So like the
that.
process of, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Now I was gonna say, so the process that took you guys for 6 months when you were just fresh into this can now take you, what would you say, Rick? Like now that you guys can help people, what does it take?
from start to finish, I think under 3 months is definitely possible, and
Okay,
we're doing everything we can to get that down.
got it. All right, so
But Rick, is it safe to say that once they're approved, have their runs from truck to running is 2 weeks?
Oh, that's 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, we streamlined the hell out of that process.
okay,
Darius,
that's
here's something. Refresh my memory. We got three DD15 Cascadia day cabs to start this, and now 10 years later, you come to our shop in South Jersey. We have lots of Freightliner Cascadias, or they were Columbias at the time, but they're all Detroit engines. Why did we decide on that? How did that come about?
My dad. So we looked at a Sterling at first, and I can't remember what engine it had. And he was like, I was on the phone with him, like, "Hey, Dad, I'm at this used truck lot. They have a Sterling here." He's like, "Don't buy that." I said, "Well, what about this? This is." We had approved for like 95,000. That was the first thing. We had approved for 95,000. Um, and we needed two trucks, and we were gonna buy just two trucks. My dad said, "Hey, no, buy a spare. You're gonna need a spare. You know, the trucks are gonna break." I was like, "No, I'm not gonna break this." This guy at Ryder said they're great warranties, and I saw like we could get three Freightliners. I said, "Hey, Dad, what about these Freightliners?" He said, "Yeah, you want a Freightliner? What kind of engine does it have?" I said, "Detroit." He said, "What kind of transmission?" I said, "Fuller, 10 speed." He said, "Yeah, get it a Detroit with a Fuller." And then I said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Because they're like F-150s and trucks, they're workhorses. They're gonna get your job done." And and I
And
started doing
everyone's
a little,
got parts for them.
yeah, I started doing little Google searches, and I found like three dealerships within like a 25, 50 mile radius. I said, "All right, it makes sense." And it just made too much sense.
Um,
so
Thinking back to that time,
mhm,
we, as small business owners, right? Because that's what we were. You hire employees, and I think we would be foolish not to mention our success to this point has a lot to do with our second hire. Darius, you talk us through that kind of like where he came from, and we can talk about how we've been able to grow our business with his help. But
Um, the dude, so we had one guy who wouldn't change his own wipers, right? He called me at like 3 o'clock in the morning, our first guy, and we gave this guy the same opportunity that everybody gets. Okay, listen, you can start this business, you're our first driver, you're gonna train everybody, you're gonna be the man. A little young, a little immature. Um, and I remember his name, I'm not gonna say his name. And we found one Indeed, and this guy wouldn't change his wipers, wouldn't go the extra mile. And I started thinking through it. I remember we bought this guy like $400 a uniform, belts, boots, pants, the whole kit.
mm,
And we said we're gonna buy everybody uniforms. That lasted like shit 2 months. Because this guy was coming in, quitting, and whatever. So Facebook, ironically, our best hire came from Facebook. Um, and his wife called me and said, "Hey, I'm gonna get my husband off the road. Can he call you?" I said, "Sure." He called me, guys from Jamaica, and he's driving, no problem. Now, at this point, we had three drivers running three trucks, but this guy's truck never broke. And I consider myself to be handy. I'm gonna fix this, fix that. But I can't fix shit. You know what I mean? Me and Rick changed a filter one time. We felt like heroes. Um, and
it took us hours.
and it was cold, and I said, "Shit, no, man."
This sucks.
But the truck ran, and then we said, "Oh, now anytime a truck dies, I'm just gonna go to the side of the road, drain the fluid, and it's gonna start back up." And it did. It worked like 3 times. I remember driving like 3 hours to like the mountainside of Pennsylvania and getting the guy running. It was pure dumb luck, right? So anyway, I asked this guy. I said, "Hey, listen, why is your truck break? Why is your truck stay running? And nobody else stays running. Everybody else is breaking all the time." He said, "I know what I'm doing." So one weekend, Another guy complained about something, and I said, I can't fix this. I don't know what it is. And I'm underneath there. I have an idea of the stick shift where the alien's coming from, but I don't know what it is. So I called this guy, I said, where are you at? He says, I'm not far from the yard. And he comes over, and I said, yo, can you help me figure out what's wrong with this? He goes in there. Within 10 minutes, he gives me this little thing the size of like an eraser or a pencil. And he says, go get 3 of these from Campbell's, the dealership. And I'm figuring like $100. They're going in at 20 cents. And I'm like, it was an air fitting for 20 cents. I come back, give it to him, he fixes it. I'm like, yo, man, how much about these trucks? How much do you know about these trucks? And he's like, I know a little bit. I said, all right, I'm gonna work it out with Rick. 3 days a week, you're not gonna drive. You're just gonna fix trucks or something like that. And he never drove again. That's the crazy shit. He never drove around again. From that day. Like, I mean, maybe the next week he might have finished a week, but that was it. Any new opportunity we tried, he was with us, towing shit, fixing stuff, road tests.
Teaming, training new guys.
Training new guys.
And
advice, so giving us good advice. Yep.
And we put him through diesel mechanic school.
He didn't finish, because you really need to. We were talking about it the other day. He figured out that he couldn't get a certificate because he didn't work at a dealership, so he just stopped going.
And so I'll have no problem saying it's Antonio. He's our lead mechanic, and he's been with us for every bit of 10 years now. And a lot of our growth I attribute to our ability to kind of take trucks that maybe other people would have been scared to run and get them up and running. And now we've brought on several more mechanics, and there's nothing from what I understand, that it's not my specialty, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to, that Cascadia model with the Detroit engine in it, there's nothing that we can't do to get that truck up and running. Probably build it from scratch with these guys, and it's a testament to their work ethic, and just how competent they are. And if you look at kind of our growth, that's a decision we made early on that just has paid dividends for us. We empowered our driver to be a mechanic, and he ran with it. And we think taken extremely good care of him. He's family. And there'll never be a time that I don't see where our kind of paths aren't intertwined. And that's allowed us to maybe do some things, take on some risk that other companies probably would not have, just because we had that comfortability and trust within him and what he was capable of doing.
And can I ask, was that kind of the start of you guys expanding outside of FedEx? Like, now that you have someone that can work on, really help on this side, open up a shop, did you guys start expanding from there? Or did that come earlier?
There's a lot of years in there. Some of them blend together. Mm-hmm. It may have been our start of our growth within FedEx, our willingness to add more trucks. Buy trucks maybe have been a couple of years older than what others were doing. At the time, the Penske leases, the Ryder leases were huge, and people were going out and paying all of this money, plus a mileage rate on top of it, which I've come to very much appreciate that model these days. But at the time, I was like, you look at the numbers, and it's like, what? Why don't you just buy this truck? Antonio will fix it. Got nothing to worry about. And we were getting trucks, and I think our P&L was sexier than most, just because we were running trucks. I mean, the trucks we teamed across the country in 16, 17, 18. I don't know of many contractors that would have been comfortable with that 700,000-800,000 miles. Run it. We'll be fine. Antonio, is this truck good to go? All right, send it. Send them to Rialto. Send them to Tracy. And and now I think back of it, God, what the hell were we thinking? But it worked out. Very few breakdowns our biggest breakdown was from a leased truck, that day cab that we had to eventually end up driving across the country. International, learned very quickly, we probably weren't going to be running international trucks for our business. Very few breakdowns significant that I think we've had to deal with over the years.
And I think once you get that, have some realistic expectations. I mean, trucks break. They just break. we were so frustrated one time. I asked Antonio, I said, why are these fucking trucks break so much? I said, Honda Civic doesn't break. I've never heard of a Honda Civic going down the road and, you know, blowing the engine up. But you're telling me $100-something thousand tractor can't stay running? My mind just doesn't comprehend it. And, you know, we had a new truck, 0 mile, you know, 50 miles from Penske. It goes right down the street and the windshield cracks right down the middle. You know, it hits a bump, cracks the windshield, $200 down the drain.
First new truck.
Yeah, you can't. Drivers hit things; they don't say anything. You know, so you kind of have to kind of weigh it. Like, if a guy's going to rub a curb and blow a tire or bend a rim, is he going to do it in a new truck or an old truck? You know, and you can't. That's the stuff you can't prepare for.
Can I ask you guys, because you touched on something important here, which is, you know, how much attention you pay to your team and how much of your success comes from your team. Like, how do you guys approach building a team? How do you make them feel kind of appreciated and help them grow? Like, what's your thought process there?
I think I speak on behalf of both of us and say we've struggled with that over the years. We started as, you know, this was a side hustle and this was our baby, and we dumped all of our money into it, and we were very, very close to it. And then we started growing 5 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees, 50 employees. And it's tough to separate yourself from the day to day, the micromanaging, the wanting to be involved in the very, you know, detailed parts of the business, while also being able to take a step back and look at the kind of the big picture and push the business towards the future. Relying on employees has maybe not been our strong suit for the majority of the business. But as of late, I think we've both done a really good job at making really good hires and empowering those people to just help us to take some stuff off of our plate so we can have high level conversations about the direction of our businesses and decide where we want to go and look down the road. But it took us a long time to get there. And I believe it's just because we were so involved from the start, both of us, and you couldn't take a step back. It's our baby. How could I trust somebody else to do it? They're not going to do as good a job as me. They're not going to, you know, care as much as I do. And it takes a long time to trust somebody to be able to do that. It's about making the right hire, developing the right relationships early on.
Yeah, and I think hiring is, you know, one of the most difficult things anyone can really do. Is there anything you guys look for specifically in bringing on a new team member? Anything that sets them apart when you're interviewing or when they're applying?
I think for me, especially as relates to drivers, we used to get a guy or girl would say, a guy or girl that would call up and say, "Hey, listen, I'm a hustler. I can drive from
Took my
California to
answer.
New Jersey in 3 hours." And me and Rick would say, "Man, this guy sounds good. Man, he's hungry. You know, he's out done." And we found out, like, man, none of those guys work. Not one. Not one of those guys still work here today. Then you get the safety bug. You know, oh man, safety is everything. Safety, everything. I gotta be safe until it's time to go home. You know, that truck can have one wheel and they can have 0 hours. They're gonna drive that thing 1,000 miles home. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So I think probably 3 years ago we really started working on. I think we started coining the phrase "gentleman" and you know, and respectful. And the one thing that we started doing is hiring just gentlemen. If they couldn't carry themselves the right way, you know, we knew that it wouldn't work out, because at 2 o'clock in the morning when they have a blowout, they're gonna be screaming at the dispatch. So once we started getting rid of those guys, the freak out guys, oh, my truck's not ready, I'm going home. You know, once we got rid of those guys, things started to get a little easier. And you know, on my end at least, from my perception, is onboarding guys who were gentlemen and ladies that were easygoing and could talk to you, could have a rational conversation with them. It just made things easier.
Got it.
And all those guys are here. Either they're here or they left and they came back, or we still have good relationships with them.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like, I respect you, you respect me in a sense.
Yeah.
Very much so. The day of the super trucker is dead. It's gone. You think about trucking in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and there was no hours of service. It was about getting, across the country as quickly as possible, using whatever chemicals necessary to do that. And it's not that there's not value there for somebody who could do that. Let's be honest, that's a very valuable skill set. But our government, the DOT, just there's no room for that. There's hours of service, there's cameras, there's speed limiters everywhere. The society is looking at these giant trucks, these missiles, rolling down the highway and the potential damage they can cause. And we look at the potential damage they can cause. Imagine, something happens. There's a lot of sleepless nights over the years from what happened, or worried about what could happen. And so I don't look for drivers who tell me that they can drive a certain number of hours, get here from there. That doesn't impress me. I want people who have a work-life balance. I want people who can show up on time. I want people who can just act in a very safe manner when it comes to recruiting. And I think give everyone a little tip that's worked very well for me. I used to recruit as the owner of the company. Hey, my name's Rick Dunn. I'm the owner of DPT. Listen, and in my mind, they're like, "Oh, the owner's calling me. Oh shit! Like this is a big deal. Like this guy cares. I'm talking to the boss man. I'm talking to the head honcho." Now, hell no. I'm just a recruiter. I'm just a guy that's acting on behalf of whoever I'm recruiting for. And that the way that they interact with me is the same way they're going to interact with my dispatchers. It's the same way they're going to interact with the dispatchers at a FedEx terminal, at an Amazon terminal. And I want people that are just nice. I want people who are not condescending towards me as the representative of a business. And if that conversation goes well, typically that conversation is going to go well no matter who they are interacting with. So it's trial and error. It's a lot of just figuring out what works. And we've spent a decade doing it. But yeah, it's you want people who have a work-life balance and just have some maturity to them, regardless of the age. And age does not play a factor at all. I've had, guys in the early 20s that are highly mature. They're probably not going to stick with you forever just because that generation always has the next best thing, the side hustle, the multiple streams of revenue, the generational wealth that they're building on the side, and that's okay. We have a place for you, and we can guide you. We're old dudes now, and we have a lot of advice I think we can share with someone, especially who is interested in building their own trucking empire. And there's some, I'll leave it with that. Maturity is not a factor of age.
Can I, so like, based on the conversation, would you say the most important thing in, FedEx, trucking, and probably really any business, would you say that'd be recruiting and being good at that?
On the FedEx side, by all means, I say it every day. I use the word recruiting at least 100 times, and it's the only thing that truly matters.
And
you wake up in the morning. If you wake up in the morning and you think a guy's going to quit, just post an Indeed ad. It's better to have some, rounds in the chamber and not be ready to go.
So I was just going to kind of, going back to FedEx here, a lot has changed, obviously, since you guys got in. Would you still recommend someone to get into FedEx?
I can certainly take that one, but I'd be extremely interested in what Darius has to say about that.
Yeah, if you have some expectations, reasonable expectations, I think. Again, we talked earlier about Rick making things very easy for people to, start a trucking company. We used to say what FedEx is like training wheels for trucking, right? But eventually the wheels come off, and for us, we started in probably running in like October, November, and we had our own authority in January, February. We were running freight outside of FedEx within 4 months. That's not for everybody. And we were 30. I thought about it yesterday, we were 33, 32, 30, 32, 33 years old. If you're 50, 60 years old, and no offense to those people those age, and you've had a really successful business career, you may not want to be up all hours of the night. So what I would say is I would encourage people to be in the business, but have some realistic expectations of what that entails. You might get called at 3 o'clock in the morning. You might get called at Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning and say my truck rolled over in a ditch. It happens. So the money's there, the business is there, the opportunity is there to grow. And for me personally, every time I hear these conversations or we used to sit down with people, Rick, it's grow, grow, grow. In the terminal, it's grow, grow, grow. But are you growing right? Are you growing in the right thing? Are you just going to take 4 unassigned runs because they gave them to you? We did, but it was 2 of us and the dispatcher and, some things going on. We had runs in Mississippi, Ohio, Florida, 2 locations in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Georgia, and Florida, all at once, right? And we were still running trucks outside of FedEx.
You still
That's
had
not for everybody.
you still had a full-time job.
And I'm still working. So that's not for everybody. And most people are not going to come into that business like that. We grew it from three trucks and 2 runs to that level. So what I say is, yes, get in the business. Know what you're getting into. Have some realistic expectations. And if you want to grow the right way. Don't just grow to be big. It's not going to work.
I could not have said it better. That's for sure.
Got it.
Ditto.
So you touched on something important where you talked about you had Rick along the way. I mean, you guys had each other as partners. Can you guys talk a little bit about what other businesses you're involved in, and we talk about how the partnership changed?
So we were trucking. We were a trucking company for the longest time. We were trucking within FedEx, and we were trucking outside of FedEx. We bought a bunch of reefer trailers. We did a lot of produce, kind of target specific, I think, niches. And then we got into Amazon when they really started rolling out, and we still give Amazon lots of power. And I say this, I got out of college and I got into real estate, and I was in Atlanta, and I had 5 properties in Atlanta, and I was doing mortgages, and it's what you did. You bought property, you rent it out, you do the whole rich dad, poor dad thing. And it was going well for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden the market collapses, 2009, 2010, and the value on these properties, I'm underwater on everything. Renting them out, years went by, and then finally when market picked back up, I sold them all. And for me, I was so turned off to the real estate game because of that I really didn't want to entertain it. Lived in my own house. I was comfortable owning that. I really didn't look for anything else. And for me, it was, for the amount of money that I spend on a house, I could just go buy a Cascadia, and instead of making, a couple $1,000s a year in profit, make a couple $1,000s a month in profit. Oh, and by the way, I can fully depreciate that asset in the year that I purchase it in. So I was always not interested in real estate for the longest time. And we talk, we need to get into this. We need to buy that. One of Darius's, I think, best qualities is his constant ability to come up with really new and obscure ideas to get into. And some of them are way out there. But some of them are extremely solid. And when you flush them out, it's wow, this makes a lot of sense. and that's a gift that he has, that certainly we've been profitable, and I've profited in the long run because of it. And then, we wanted to look at diversifying the business. We looked at the idea of what Airbnb was. I love the short term rental model, the ability to make more margin on these businesses. And so last year we started accumulating property for the purpose of Airbnb, in very specific markets. And so that's been successful so far. Looking forward to that. That's something I think we're always going to do. Is continue to buy assets, mainly real estate property, even some commercial stuff, but that aspect. So that's something we're doing. And then Darius, he's got something huge going on. I'll let him talk about it.
No, we do trucking, we do Airbnb, we do FedEx, we do Amazon. Um, and the good thing for us is we do have people to help, no matter how frustrated we get with them. Um, whether it's a bookkeeper who does the books for three companies, or a dispatcher who can dispatch for FedEx, Amazon, and refrigerated. But there's always that one little thing that Rick is really good at, or I'm really good at, that those people just can't do. And that's what you get from learning a business from the bottom, or building a business from the ground up. I mean, there's very little that Rick probably hasn't booked a load in a long time, but I bet you he could. If I drop dead and everybody walked out of here, the trucks aren't going to sit. They're not going to sit there idle. And if he couldn't do it, he knows who to call can. Um, so we're good there. I mean, look, it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on a Thursday. We're able to be free enough to have this conversation. So it goes back to your people um, point, Christian. But yeah, man, we do Airbnb, trucking, refrigerated. We're doing dumpsters now. I think there's a huge opportunity there, because of our other businesses. We have space, we got mechanics, we got know-how, we know lenders. We know how to get things from A to B across the country. So for me to go to A to B in town, it's like finger paint. You want me to drop a dumpster from uh, Montclair to East Orange? Okay, was it 7 miles? So that's the
So
business.
look, and when you were talking about our businesses, you left out probably like the biggest, most exciting one that you're doing. Why? Can you kind of briefly tell us that how we got into that?
What, Linehaul?
No, Daisy.
I said dumpsters. I said it. All right.
So
I did, right?
you did, yeah. What's the name of the company? If you mind sharing.
Daisy Disposal.
Okay. You guys are
What
based
is
out of New Jersey, is that right?
what is Daisy
Mhm.
Disposal?
Yeah.
It's a waste management company. Does solid waste and hauling in state of New Jersey, Philadelphia, um, probably Mercer County down to Mercer County south, Eastern PA, Philadelphia, all the way east to Atlantic City, and as far south as probably Swedesboro. So we do that. We do recycling, demo,
That is that all residential, commercial?
commercial, residential, construction. I'd say it's probably for me. For me, looking at business and doing B2B with FedEx and mostly Amazon, we don't. So none of our business is threshold business. Let's get this. Yeah. So one thing that we learned in FedEx and Amazon, I mean, they're big Fortune 100 companies, and they have a lot of volume and capacity. And there's nothing wrong with someone cleaning out their garage and wanting a dumpster. It pays the same as a commercial client. The only thing is, commercial clients or commercial customers, they're going to order 10 dumpsters at once. So I probably have like a 70-30 mix of commercial residential, maybe 60-40, because it's summertime, people are doing spring cleaning, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's a good business. I like it. And it was all built around and supported by our experience and know-how in trucking.
Nice.
Yep. And I think if I'm looking, the next 3 to 5 for us,
Hmm.
obviously I'm heavily focused on online health solutions, extremely excited about what that's doing for this space. Darius is focused on, the wastes. We're still doing lots of trucking and real estate. And at some point we turned, we went from air marshals to real entrepreneurs. And it happened like so fast. And I don't know when the switch occurred, but it just happened. And we're going to continue to grow. And I think partnering with Darius, there's always going to be a new idea on the table, always something that's going to take my attention from what I want to focus on. It's like, this is a really, really good idea in business you're building, but why don't we consider, you know, this little new shiny toy? Come play over here. And it keeps it exciting. That's for sure.
For sure.
And for all the things that we do, I mean, there's some interesting things that we certainly haven't done over the years.
Ooh, can you give us a couple?
Um,
Smashing the
yeah,
waste.
smash my trash. Um,
I still kind of love what
All
that
right,
was.
we're not giving away ideas. Never mind.
no, they don't work. I'll say it doesn't work. You don't see them.
Okay.
You don't see them. Cleaning garbage bins. We flew to Dallas to research cleaning garbage bins.
Mhm.
That was like our first official business trip. Like that, like we flew somewhere. Like we flew, got on the plane. I flew first class because it was $100 more. I felt like a real business guy. But I'm sitting there with my air marshal gun on and stuff, and I'm in first class mainly because we're going to. I went Jersey to Atlanta, Atlanta to Dallas, and it was brutal on like this little ass jet. But I'm first class. Um, that Smash My Trash, something else, man. We tried to do flatbed trucking. I partnered with someone in Trenton. That shit was miserable. Um, and there's something else. And we ironically, everybody looks at the Amazon trucks now, delivering to your house. Me and Rick we were one of the first people that went to one of those terminals. Even before we were doing line haul for Amazon. Before we were doing big trucks for Amazon, we got invited to do the threshold work. And
The
we
delivery, the
had
last mile,
last
delivering
final
packages to
mile,
doors.
whatever. Yeah, and we went there, and there were people like chomping at the bit. I mean, it was crazy. Like the people that wanted to do this, it was paying $250 a day, and we had the trucking experience. And know, like, I said, well, how many stops is it? And they were like, oh, it's 200, and it's gonna get to 300. And I was like, a week? And they're like, a day. And I was like, all right, how much money do you get per stop? $1.50? They were like, nothing. And I'm like, well, $250 a day. You got to pay a driver, pay workers' comp, pay insurance, pay the van. If you get a parking ticket, you're done. You're shot for the week.
Mm.
But we knew that from trucking, and we walked out of there like, we're not doing this shit. I don't care how shiny Amazon is. We're not doing it.
Wow. Yeah.
That's why they give you the vans. That's why they give you the vans now, because you can't make money if you have to pay for your own.
Got it. So, I mean, you guys obviously are juggling a lot, and I think, just stepping away from the business you're actually doing, I think for a lot of people, when they're running businesses or getting into it, how do you guys decompress? Like, you got a lot going on. How do you take a step back at the end of the day and just go like, decompress, reevaluate, resituate? What do you do?
Beer.
You want
that is
any,
that is a fantastic question. And for me, I think, the struggle of being a business owner in 2022 is you are connected at all times to that business, to people who need to get in touch with you. And decompressing for me is getting away from my cell phone. That's it. Like if I can get away from my cell phone, that's when I have peace. And I have made it a point lately that if I'm going in to play with my kids, leaving the cell phone in the house. I love it, even geez, it's bad. So going to the gym, right? Love go to the gym. Just I've been my whole life. But now, getting there and going to a typical gym and lifting weights, I'm listening to music on my phone, which is attached to the laundry list of things that I need to do. So I started going to that F45 boot camp type thing, which is it's 45 minutes and I can't have my phone on me, and they smoke the shit out of me, and it's peaceful to me. I love it because you know what? Like I'm not thinking about everything that I have to do. My mind's just elsewhere. So for me, decompressing is just anywhere I can take my brain that's not related to entrepreneurship, which is a challenge, and I
Yeah,
struggle with it
sure.
daily.
What about you,
It,
Darius?
it's so Rick hit the nail on the head. It's a cell phone. It's so freaking hard. We said years ago we were going to get other phones, and we just never. I don't know if Rick did it. I didn't do it. And I need to, but now I'm getting another phone for my other business. So um, the phones are hard. Um, and in our highway business, over the road business, I'm there daily, um, and it's hard to turn that off. In general, it's just hard. If I'm there, I say, okay, today I'm leaving at 3, and I walk down the steps, and someone stops me. I'm not getting out of there till 6 because one guy stopped me. I'll get distracted, and then I get home at 7. And I'm like, okay, what can I do now? From beat, So what I've been doing lately is trying to get home a little earlier, start a little earlier, and when I get home, there's no more emergency outside of an emergency. There's no more perceived emergencies, and we were talking before about watching Marvel movies, like just catching up on. I can't remember the last time I watched a movie, like just sat down for 2 hours and watched a movie, right? So I told Rick, I said I'm gonna start watching movies, and just to say, okay, for these 2 hours, an hour and a half, I'm gonna turn the phone off. I'm gonna finish this movie. Um, Now, Endgame was 3 hours, so I couldn't finish it in one day. But
You
the
finally
small,
got there. It's 4 years later.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But the small stuff, man, like trying to get those series, something to look forward to. Like you guys we're about the same age. You remember, like TV wasn't always on demand. So if something came on Thursday at 8, you had to rush home and be there Thursday at 8. So I'm trying to get into finding those planned experiences, you know, and how small, big, whatever. So we went to the air show. That was good. We went to Dinner and Blanc. That was good. Um, and knowing when I'm there, we're not trucking. We're not,
Yep.
we're not on the phone because, hey, I've been looking forward to this for a month. I don't care what happens for 5 hours. It'll be fine.
That so that's a great point. We have kids the same age. We went to Atlantic City and we spent the day. We went and we saw dolphins and we went to eat and our kids were playing. And I don't think Darius and I talked about trucking the entire time. And not that it's not on the forefront of our minds, but it's just sometimes you just got to not think about owning a business, and it's a challenge, and I think we're getting better at that. We're still evolving as adults and men, and certainly as business owners, to be more productive. And if I get away, I'm better. I can think better, I can communicate better, and I'm just better for my clients, for my drivers, for whoever needs me. Just get a better version of me if I'm able to have that decompression time. Great question.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I think like anytime I'd want to finish any of these kind of interviews off is just, obviously you guys have done plenty, you've learned a lot of lessons. And, for Rick, like your latest venture, Linehaul Solutions, which people can find you at linehaul.info, if anyone's looking to get in or just is a current contractor, needs some help, like reach out, plain of knowledge that you're willing to share. So it's linehaul.info. And then Darius, between DPT Logistics, between Daisy, like where can people find you?
www.daisydisposalnjpa.com. You can book online 24/7, 365.
A
Nice.
lot of letters you got to type in just to get to you. Jeez.
Daisy Disposal was taken, and they wanted me to pay 2K to buy it, and I said no. And I said, if it's only 2K now, I'll just wait till I have the money. I need to get rolling. So I'll buy it later and just redirect. You know? So,
Sure.
I'll say this because it needs to be said. And I got distracted earlier when you said it. Rick asked when the point that we realized we were business guys, right?
Mhm.
And it still sounds so crazy that we're business guys. But when we used to tell people, like we used to use it to our advantage, we're just two dumb cops. We started this. And for me, I'll tell you when I realized it, right? So we started in 13, 14. We're rolling around in FedEx, got our badges and guns under our shirt. They didn't even have security back then. We was walking in with our guns and shit. And excuse my language if I'm cursing, bleep me out. And I'll try to curtail it. And now right around 16 or so, or even definitely 17, I remember Susan in FedEx in Woodbridge. I was sitting there and said, "Oh, me and Rick don't know what we're doing. We're just two dumb cops." And she was like, "Darius, you can't say that anymore." And I was like, "No, still, no, I'm still a cop." And she was like, "You guys got like 20 runs. You can't say that." And I was like, "Oh, come on, Susan. It's me and Rick." And I laughed it off. And then we went to, I think, a bank meeting for M&T, I think. And I told Gino, I said, "Oh, me and Rick are just two dumb cops. We don't know what's going on." And I was trying to use it to push our agenda. He says, "You're asking for a boatload of money. You can't say you're two dumb cops. You got your business." So, and that's when I said, "All right, I got to kind of curtail that." And now when we say it, it doesn't even get a response because the
Yeah.
people that we're dealing with, they know the business, they know how activity. I'm in the yard with 50 trucks or something, 20 trucks and all this space in there, and all these people in there and air guns, and, woo, 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 and all this banging going on. I was, "Oh, we're just two dumb cops." And they're looking around like, "You don't look dumb to me." It doesn't play well anymore, in my opinion.
Yep.
The
And
Genesis story though.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's a testament to, the hustle, the ability to kind of figure out what made the most sense for us and our business at every step of the way, being okay with making bad decisions and accepting a massive amount of risk to get to where we are right now. And we've made, lots of mistakes, but we're here, and I think we're both very content at this point of our lives with the progression of ourselves, our partnership, and our kind of where we are as entrepreneurs these days. And so it's exciting. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of wondering how this bill's going to get paid. But at the same time, it's been really fun creating this and building numerous businesses from scratch. So I've had a great time doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again. I think this was really helpful for a lot of people.